They do so well. Yeah, it's too many absences for my taste, but yeah, what happened? Still doing scouts. And so Jake, taking a year off, and so he's starting back up to 9. So it's so we'll be over.
So did you say God, is that when it starts?
Are you co after?
Back out here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, for sure.
But it's
How's it going? Hey. I said 36. That was my number, so.
That's what you got?
Come on in, folks, and take a seat. We're going to get started in just a few minutes.
So you're just.
Okay.
Like I was, yeah, like. Yeah, I've been sitting here all this and like. House plan. And I was funny.
Right now, I think I've done just for. But my family. Randy's house, you build them things that are.
I haven't seen it yet.
Introduce you all as a roll call, but then do the motion for the minute. We'll have that on mic.
Oh, all right.
So. I'm gonna introduce you to the passport. Are you still on? Okay, she's still active, but not enough.
I don't know.
I don't know. She
She's
said
still
the
on,
notice
so.
last night is still here.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first of the year.
Okay. Okay, well then I will not do this.
I don't understand.
You'll always be there.
Get ready? You ready to?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Jason Gerwin. I'm the chair of the Lakewood Parks Advisory Board and the Edgewood Park Master Plan update that most of you are here for will be a part of our agenda, but we have a few housekeeping items to take care of first. Yeah, I'm sorry. I do tend to be a soft talker. And so with that being said, I am going to introduce our board members. And so we have Alan Billingsley. We have Janet Spinath. We have Kate Reed, who is our
Kate Moss. I think she's like a supermodel.
yes,
So
there's some similarities. Kate Reed, I'm sorry about that. We have Sylvia Allen and Vito Iacobazzi. And so that will be our roll call. And with that being said, we had minutes distributed to us. I would entertain a motion if there is one.
But it's not showing us. I said.
I'll move the minutes are approved as written.
Second.
But it's not on the screen.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Hearing none, we have unanimous approval of the meeting minutes. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it on to Parks Director Mary Dodsworth to introduce the Edgewood Park Master Plan.
Edgewater.
Edgewater. Man, I'm all over the place tonight. My
You're
apologies.
Okay, so Nikki here is, are they seeing the full one or are they, oh, so it's just us. Okay, good. All right, I am not a soft speaker, but I will use the microphone because there's lots of us here tonight. I'm gonna put these over here. So welcome, everybody. We're grateful that you're here tonight, and thanks to the Park Board for hosting our meeting. They hosted the first Edgewater Park Master Plan meeting out on site 2019. Many of you are still here, so thank you. Thank you. So I'm Mary Dodsworth. I'm your Parks and Recreation and Community Services Director. I have been with the city of Lakewood for about 23 years. We're a 26-year-old city. So we've seen lots of things happening and lots of changes happening. And anyway, we're glad that you're here tonight. So I just wanted to, we got through the business. So I'm going to find this little clicker thing behind you. And we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do tonight so that you're prepared for the conversation. You're ready to ask questions and provide input. There's going to be plenty of time tonight to ask questions, provide input, share your thoughts, and get us ready for the next best thing. So here we are tonight to talk about that. What we're going to do tonight is do some welcome and introductions. I want to share with you some of the staff that's here tonight because they can help. They're experts in certain areas, and also they're here to listen and to gather information so that we can work together to improve this area. We're going to go over some park and planning history. Some of you were here in 2000 or out at the park, or maybe here when we did meetings in 2019 and, or pardon me, 2018, 2019. Some of you are brand new. You might not have known that we went through a community process. So we're going to give you an update so you know where we've been and where we're going. We're going to talk a little bit about the previous master plan process that got us to this draft plan. Talk a little bit about some of the additional work that's been done, the survey work, the studies that have been done to help us gather more information. Then we're going to talk about the site today, get some feedback from you, and then do a couple of little exercises here so that we can get some feedback that we can share at with grant folks so that we can talk a little bit about the public process. And then again, there'll be time for you to provide input and answer questions or ask questions, and hopefully we can answer them. And if not, we'll get back to you. So that's our plan for tonight. So so that's kind of the order that we'll go in, and we'll just get started. So just so in case some of you thought you were here for a different reason, I'm just going to share. We're here tonight to talk about Edgewater Park. As we know, it's located, I wonder if this little thing works here. Oh, look at that. It's located right here on the east side of Lake Steilacoom. It's the only public boat launch on Lake Steilacoom. Lake Steilacoom is about 306 acres. And we've had a variety of conversations tonight between 11 feet to 20 feet. Some people have said 30 feet deep, but there's definitely a variation in depth in different areas, especially right now, the lake's so low. It's a challenge. So, and then the other information that we're providing is that there are a lot of folks that were talking about what are the rules on the lake. I don't know if you know that it's actually a Class B lake. Class B, the lakes are, the state manages our lakes. It's not a city of lake managed area, although our police officers can enforce it, but it is a managed lake by the state, and they classify them. So it's a Class B lake, and that means that it's bigger than 100 acres, less than 500 acres, and we're at 306. So we're right in the middle. These are the watercraft regulations for a Class B lake. You're not supposed to go faster than 40 miles per hour. Your vessels aren't supposed to be bigger than 20 feet 6 inches. You're supposed to, of course, be slow when you're going within that 75 feet of interlocking bridge. And the rest of the rules you can find at the revised Code of Washington 88.12. And you don't have to write that down because following this meeting, this presentation will be on our city's website on the Edgewater Park page. So you'll be able to see all those details. Yes. Sure. Okay, so what she said, for those that might not have been able to hear her, is that she believes there's some additional rules regarding a cove, so that could apply to Edgewater. So we'll check that out. And Nikki's over here taking notes. So we're gonna, I forgot to introduce all the people here. So yes. Okay, well, so we're going to go through the presentation and then we're going to have plenty of time to get feedback. So just as an introduction, besides our park board members who are here tonight, we have Stacy Redding. She works with our capital projects, and so she's helping manage this project. We have Nikki here, York, who's our admin assistant. She's taking great notes tonight. She's going to write down all the things you say. And if you forgot, if we couldn't hear you, we've got opportunities to write things down, but Nikki's going to keep track so we can remember all the great things that you said and the questions that you asked. We have Officer James back here. There were a lot of questions regarding enforcement and monitoring, and so he's here to listen in and help share that information. We have Paul Busich. He's our Public Works Engineering Director. He deals with transportations and streets, and so he knows a lot about that stuff. And who did I miss? Oh, and Heidi Wachter's hiding back here. She's our city attorney, and she didn't have anything else to do, so she's taking notes in the back. So anyway, so then we also have our, just to keep going real quick, but I appreciate that. We'll check on that Cove in case you didn't get that note. Are there some additional code? It's an addendum in the back of the RCW. So then we also, Edgewater Park is a park and the boat launch is considered part of the park. So technically the park hours are from 7 a.m. till sunset or 9 p.m., whichever is earlier. That means in the summertime, the park's open later than the wintertime. All of our park code is listed with the Lakewood Municipal Code, and that's the number 8.60. You can get that on our website as well. There is a rule regarding power loading. People do it all the time there. It really causes trouble with all of the depression with the gravel and the big hill right behind it. Makes it hard to launch and to bring your boat in. And then you're not supposed to, there's some speed limits on there as well. So anyway, those are some of the rules. And again, you can find all the rules and the code there. And again, this will be on our website. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the park and the planning that we've done so that you can know where we've been, so that we can get ready to talk about that. So the site was created, well, the area was created, I think in 20 something or 1915 or someplace down there. But anyway, the site has been managed by Pierce County, and they created a lot of parks in the 70s. So that area has been used for quite some time as an open space area. The city incorporated in 1996, and we inherited all of the lovely park sites from Pierce County. Most of them were in some kind of a serious shape. There wasn't many irrigation systems. There weren't many it wasn't green grass. It was most of the parks that we inherited were in some state of disrepair. So the city spent a lot of time over the last 25 years, 26 years trying to update most of the park sites in the city. In 2004, the city, it was a new city, and they started doing park improvement projects. So one of the first projects that they did was actually working on the boat launch. Now, we didn't redesign the road, we didn't reconfigure the boat launch, but the boat launch was in pretty bad shape. So we worked with Fish and Wildlife and their boat launch repair team, and the city did repair the ramp and put in new cement panels that went out into the water. So that was one of the first projects that we did. And then we moved on to lots of other parks throughout the city. So in 2017, we did a tree inventory and assessment and recognized there were some dangerous trees and some trees that needed some pruning. So we did an inventory and assessment at the site. In 2018, we decided that we were coming back because it was now Edgewater's turn to get some improvements. As you know, there's not much there. And so we came back as a community and said, hey, we want to get ready for the next grant cycle. So let's start talking to the neighborhood and see what we want to do to make this park a better place for our community. So we had meetings in 2018, we had meetings in 2019. We came up with some alternate designs. And then in 2020, we came up with a preferred alternative. And then there was also this activity that occurred in 2020. It was called COVID. So that kind of shut us down and shut our processes down and a lot of our planning down. And so that's kind of where things stopped. We did know after we did this that there were some studies and some work that needed to be done. And so some of those things occurred in the last 3 years. So we've got some data to share with you tonight. But that's kind of how things stopped. So in 2021, we did have to take out a few trees because they were dangerous. And so we had an arborist report and we took a couple trees down. That was about most of the work that was done. And then here we are today. We're going to talk a little bit more about how do we make this place a little more special for our community. So, So that's sort of the history of our planning for Edgewater Park. Yes. Well, they get invited to the meetings and so,
Consultant of any kind?
no, they're,
I don't like.
oh.
They-
She asked if any of the, I'll share, but thank you, Jason, Vanna White. She asked if any of the lake associations as an association has participated. And I said they get invited just like everybody else does to participate, but it's a community process. So, but anyway, so why are we updating the plan now? So the update is it's 2023. So several years have passed, codes have changed, shoreline actives changed, and, new folks have come, some folks have gone. We are getting ready to, we want to apply for grants. The city's been, yes. Oh, like this, is that better? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Raise your hand if you can't hear or if I'm talking too fast. I'm kind of a fast talker. So, if I'm not making sense or you can't hear me, raise your hand and then we'll fix that. But thank you, appreciate that. So, it's 2023. So we want to come in back and gather some public input. We want to talk about where we were and where we want to go. We want to update the master plan. We want to make sure that whatever we decide to do can be done, that it's feasible. We want to make sure that what we can do is permittable. There's a lot of permits that are required when you work near the water. We want to get some cost estimates to say what can we afford. And if we can't afford it because it's expensive doing projects on and near the water, as most of you know, then maybe we look at a phased approach. But we are getting ready to apply for the 2024 grant applications for Recreation and Conservation Office. We've gotten grants to do lots of park projects throughout the community. We've done projects at Harry Todd and American Lake and Ward's Lake and Fort Steilacoom. And so we're getting ready to look at and depending on what we do will depend on what kind of grants we want to apply for. And those need to be submitted by next April, May, with the presentations in the summer. And then they make the recommendation late in the fall with approval the next year. So there's quite a process that goes on to try and get the resources that we need to make those improvements. And then the idea is probably if all goes as well and we get lots of money, we get allocations, then we could start looking at some improvements in 2026. So nothing happens too quickly. So let's go back to just a quick summary of the public process that we had regarding the meetings in 2018. We want to let you know what we saw and what we heard. And then if we missed something, it would be great for you to share those bits and pieces of information. But what we really heard from the people was there's a lack of parking. That came out really, really strongly at our community meetings. They were concerned that there was no enforcement happening, no of illegal activities happening at the park. There was no enforcement of what was happening on the lake. Traffic, people were racing too fast through the neighborhood. And especially since what is that? Papa John's Pizza, once they opened that on the corner, they were racing right down that street to do their shortcuts. That came out pretty strong. The boat launch, it's very steep. The water's very shallow. It's very difficult to maneuver there. There's no parking for trailers. There's no parking at all. Those in-water stumps are really dangerous. How do we get those removed or how do we mark them? There's a lack of maintenance. All we have is blackberries. All they do is block our views. The grass is brown and dead. There's no irrigation. There's a real conflict from swimmers and the boat launch activity. They were worried about safety, especially for children. There's really no seating. You take a walk, it's dark. There's nowhere to sit and enjoy the view. If you can see through the blackberries, and there's no bathrooms. So people are deciding to use the bushes. So those were some of the comments that we heard pretty loud and clear from folks. So out of those comments, there were some solutions that we talked about. We talked about, well, maybe we could look at a one-way traffic coming or going to help reduce that speeding, to provide space for parking. So maybe we could do one way. And the circulation's really funny in that area anyway, because you don't just drive through and go out, you kind of have to zig and zag. So that was one of the ideas. We didn't know if we wanted to go one way this way or one way that way, but we thought one way would be a potential solution. They wanted to have a designated fire lane. People were really concerned that, especially those summer hot days, that the police department or an ambulance or a fire department couldn't get through. They couldn't get to their house or my house, they said, if there was an emergency. Maybe we could put in some speed bumps to slow people down. We need more patrol and more enforcement. Could we move the launch somewhere else? It's really in a challenging area. Suggested maybe some of the street ends. Could we add a pier for fishing? People are just doing it from the shore, or sometimes they're doing it from the boat launch. And that's challenging with some of the launching. But also people wanted to get out and just view the water and view the wildlife. Talked about adding a dock. So when you actually launch your boat, you don't have to tie it to the tree. You could actually launch it, tie it up to a dock, and then you could go on your way after you've found a place to park or not. People said, why don't we charge a launch fee? That might discourage some of the activity and reduce all of the boats on the lake. Maybe define where the swimming area could be so that you could definitely keep the kids or the people, not always kids, out of the boat launch traffic. Add some trash cans, maybe provide a drop-off area so that, because parking's so challenging, you could drop off your picnic supplies or your activity supplies and you could go find another spot. Add irrigation, add a dog waste station, and possibly a Santa cam. So I just want to remind folks that what a master plan. So a master plan is just a picture of a lot of great ideas. A master plan isn't a construction drawing. It's not set in stone, exactly this will be here or that will be here. So what we did was create at that time alternatives. We had 2 alternatives based on all of the great ideas that we had. And it was, again, 2 master plan ideas based on what we heard were the problems and what we heard were some of the potential solutions. So plan A, and you don't need to necessarily see that because you'll see the preferred one, but option A said, let's try a one-way southbound. It said, let's add some parking and sidewalks. Let's add some grass and picnic areas. Let's add a small dock. I could probably do this. Let's add a small dock. Let's add some pathways so you can walk from one end of the park to the other and not have to walk through the middle of the road. Let's talk about adding some lighting and a Santa can and a rule sign and some trash can, just some side amenities to make the park experience a little better. Let's define the swim area and add a dock over here off of the boat launch. So that was alternative 1. And so people said let's see. So for plan A, they said, this is what they liked about it. And then they said, this is what we don't like about it. We said, there's not enough landscaping. They didn't like one-way north, but they also didn't like one-way south. They said they didn't want, especially the people that lived in front, we don't want to have to take our garbage can and get our mail across the street if it was a one-way road. They weren't crazy about the boat launch in its current location. They said that there lacks, again, parking overall, even though the one-way road does provide parking, along that part of Edgewater. I beg your pardon? I know, but yeah, but it's a narrow road. So that's the problem. So in that, again, it's going to create increased use, more maintenance, and more enforcement will be needed. And then the idea is there's a gate at the launch that could be open and closed like we do at parks. And maybe that would slow down some of that activity. But that wasn't one of the things they were crazy about. So then we had plan B. And again, people liked it's a little bit different. You can see it's a little bit more robust vegetation, that there were more native plants and habitat. People like that. They liked the shoreline improvements because it created some spots where you could actually sit and enjoy the waterfront. There was a separate fishing dock. I think that's over here. Meandering paths, again, they like that. Signage and trash cans, parking on Foster to get people off this road. And they like the mitigation areas, which was just providing some buffer here for the neighbors. What they didn't like was they don't want a bigger dock there. They didn't like the parking on Foster. They didn't like park lights. They didn't want people there at night. They still need more parking. And they were concerned that that the vegetation would grow and that people would be able to hide in there, that might create some homeless camps. So out of that came a preferred. So we talked what we loved and hated about each one, or dislike. Hate's kind of a strong word. Anyway, so we came up with this preferred master plan as that would have started the next round of conversations. And so again, what this included is it has a one-way road on Edgewater right here. It didn't talk about whether it was one way or the other, but we did talk about a one-way road. Coming down from Sacramento to right down to Foster. Yeah. So it would the one way or the other. Well, this is a master plan, so it's just a drawing with big ideas. So that's what the idea was to have one way here so that you could still get up and down Foster and get in and out and use the alley for the folks that live there. Boat launch was improved, but it was left at the current location. Parking, you could see parking is all along, and you can get up here in a little bit and see the drawing. We provided space for actually parking along Edgewater Drive. And again, if it was going one way, the parking would be on one side. If it was going the other way, the parking would be on the other side. So you didn't have to cross over for getting to the lake. There's a fishing pier and a boardwalk so that you could fish and also get out over the lake. There's lots of habitat green, that's habitat and landscape improvements to make it pretty. There's safety lighting, trails throughout the park to get from one end to the other, and an overlook up here, I think, just to provide a view, and improve shoreline access, a bunch of site furnishings, and then a Santa can with an enclosure. So that was the preferred master plan. So after that, when we heard from folks and we said, hey, you know, one-way traffic, what do we need to do, like, do we go this way or that way? So we went to our experts, Public Works Engineering, and said, hey, what do you think? How can we deal with this circulation here? And they said, well, we need a survey. We need to know what we own and what we have and what areas there are. So we did a survey, and well, I'll just tell you that then COVID happened and we all sort of shut down and we didn't come back for a while. But then since that time, we have done a series of data collection. One is we did our legacy plan during 2020, I believe it was. And the legacy plan is our Park and Rec master plan. The legacy plan, although it is a 6-year plan for capital, it also sort of a 20-year strategic plan. So we did our legacy plan, and Edgewater was listed in the legacy plan. And so you can see many of the things we just talked about were listed in there as potential improvements for that park. If we're going to apply for a grant, we have to have the project listed in a master plan. So check the box there. Because again, our intent was to apply for grants in 2020. We have since then done a street end update. And so one of the things was, could the boat launch be moved to a street end? And so we did talk about our citywide street ends. We had done the street end plan, I think, in 2009. And so we came back and did an update. We didn't start from scratch, just like tonight, we're not starting from scratch. And so we talked about potential opportunities, increased public access, which is a #1 goal. It's in our master plan. It's in this council strategic plan. We hear constantly from our citizens, there's no public access to water, very little public access to water in Lakewood. And so what else did it say there? Oh, and then we talked about with the city council about possibly doing a pilot project in 25-26. So these are your street ends that are on Lake Steilacoom. You can see they're kind of in all different locations. And so these are the locations. And again, our street end study, we have that right here. You can look at it tonight. Don't take it home, but you can also see it's on our website. You can look at it really closely and see how that came out. This is our legacy plan. Also on our website, it's our master plan. You can look through it and see all of the great information that's in there as well. And again, this presentation will be on our website soon. Okay, so those are the things. The other thing we did is we did the survey. So this survey, it's a lot of lines on here, but what we found on this survey, there's a lot of encroachments. Encroachments are scary. Encroachments creates change, but the city's right of way is 60 feet wide, which means the city has the opportunity to utilize that to solve some problems. The road is 18 feet wide. So that's why it's so narrow. That's why there's no parking. That's why it's difficult when someone's racing down there. So we did a survey and we found that there were a lot of encroachments. And again, that can be very scary because you wonder, that's by my driveway, that's by my favorite tree, my rhododendron, my steps. So, so anyway, it's just information at this point. It gives us information to help us solve some problems, but we do have a copy of the survey up, and that's, I think that was done in 2021, Paul, 2021-ish. So we're doing some additional work to identify trees and some other things that are on the survey, but you can see the survey over there as well and get some more information on that. So I'm going to so that's a lot to hear. So that's kind of where we're at. That's sort of where we were. And now we're going to get started and talk a little bit about existing sites. Remember, we're going to get through here. Then we're going to have time for more input. We're going to do some activities to get some feedback from you. So I'm going to introduce Stacy Redding, who works with our capital projects, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the existing site conditions, which many of you might know because you might wander around there, you might live right there, but some of you might have come from a little further up or down. So anyway, take it away. Do you want me to click or do you want to click? Okay.
So here's a couple pictures. The first picture on the left here is at the
Talk right like that.
All right. At the launch, looking south across the park, as you can see, the grass is dormant and there's some Himalayan blackberries along the shoreline. These were from July of this year. So the lake level is actually quite a bit lower because we were just out on the site, and there's some exposed lake bed and gravel along the shore. This was from July. So the picture on the right also shows how little access there is along the shoreline, and again, the encroachment of invasive species in Himalayan blackberries. Another view along the shoreline, there's a couple pockets where you can get to the water's edge, but it's very limited. And along the south portion of the park, there's also a sewer pump station, which is operated by Pierce County. Farther in the center of the park, looking across the launch, when we were there in July, there was a young man fishing with his mom and his dog. You can see there's some significant trees throughout the site, some Lombardy poplar trees and some fir trees. And then looking north, there are some additional invasive species, some yellow flag iris, and again, a better view of the poplars and the fir trees adjacent to the launch, as well as the blackberries. So supporting, as Mary spoke about, the potential to convert this to a one-way street, we need to gather some data. And so a traffic survey was just recently conducted by a consultant, and here's some information from that survey. So about 3 blocks east of the park was conducted with cameras and traffic counts. And you can see in the red, that is some critical parking area in the neighborhood immediately south of the launch for some congestion on street parking data that was collected. And the yellow area south on Waverly was some additional parking that crept out into the neighborhood during the survey. So the survey was also conducted on Labor Day, September 1st and 2nd, and it was a really nice weekend, and obviously one of the last weekends of summer. So during that time, there was approximately 40 launches, and 65% of which were motorized and about 35% were non-motorized. The graphic on the left shows where the cameras were set up to collect this data throughout the neighborhood. And here's a graphic of some of the issues that I'm sure folks that live in and use this launch are aware of. The boat launch issues backing across Edgewater or down Foster blocks traffic and causes some congestion along Edgewater and Foster. The low summer lake levels create an issue with launching your boat. So the power launching creates a big gravel pit and makes it difficult to launch. And the ramp is short and steep. There's obviously no float and dock to tie off to, as we discussed. So there's issues with what do you do with your boat once you get it in the water? And there's no parking to support your truck and trailer once you launch your boat. There is currently no fee station at the launch, and there's minimal maintenance. There's pretty strict regulation regarding in-water improvements and maintenance that would be associated with the launch. So that brings us to today and our current update. So we're a recap of the main issues are a lack of parking, monitoring and enforcement and safety issues, traffic on the streets, boats traveling on the lake and increased use, people at the park, pedestrian access to the park and the use in the park. There's some concerns about meeting the current needs as well as increased use, creating additional future needs. Boat launch improvements, we discussed what are the pros and cons to keeping the launch in its current location, and can we resolve some of those issues, or should we consider relocating the launch? Conflicts in the lake, the swimming and fishing with safety, and the landscape and habitat management and improvement. So we're going to So with those kind of that recap and that reconsideration, we want to take time to gather any new input that we may have missed or some new major concerns that you may have for this site development.
I just wanted to check on over a lot of things that were and were not on different plans. On this plan, would I assume that security has been is on that list also?
Yes, so safety, that's monitoring and enforcement, so that would be
Okay.
safety. Park people don't have any kind of enforcement ability, but our police department does, but that is, I'll write it down just to make sure. And again, this was a lot of ideas, and
Yes.
security and safety is kind of more of a program thing than a development thing. There are things that you can do, crime prevention through environmental design. CPTED, cool people term, but it really means making improvements and not doing things or adding things so that it reduces crime, like keeping low-level bushes. Don't create big places where people could hide. If there were structures on there, there's certain things you do in and around buildings so that you don't create safety issues. So crime prevention through environmental design is definitely techniques that'll be thought of when we're doing improvements. But I wrote safety or security and enforcement, just to make sure that it's high on the list, if that's something
Okay.
that you really care about.
Also, the stumps.
Stumps. Yeah, those were on there. That's kind of a tricky one because we've heard from some folks you can't take them out. We've heard from some folks you'll never be able to get them out.
Yeah.
Then we've heard some other folks that maybe you could. So it's definitely, especially right now with the water so low, it's a real challenge. And some of the rebars looking kind of, and there's a cone on one. I mean, maybe if we can't, you could put some public art or something that looks pretty, so at least you can see it, but stumps, they
Okay.
look
I also,
dangerous. Just one sec. Let's finish up here.
there's also every year now, there are weeds that are a hazard, which would go under security.
Like invasive or noxious weeds,
Invasive.
invasives. They're on there.
And in the lake,
Yeah, I think the Lake Improvement Club's dealt with that, but
not well. Anyway, there's Fish and Wildlife. Have you been discussing with them because I live on the Cove, which is what I call it, across from Edgewater Park.
I'm sorry, you have a what?
I live on the Cove
Oh, you live
across
on the Cove,
from
yeah.
Edgewater Park. Fish and Wildlife has very strict instructions on what
Yeah.
can and can't be done. So I want to make sure that all laws.
Oh, yeah, the
were
city has to
enforced.
follow every law that everybody else has to follow. In fact, our permit department doesn't give us a break. We don't get any free rides or passes.
Right.
We have to in fact, sometimes I think they're harder on me than our citizens, but no, we'll make sure that that's,
So the environmental impact.
yeah, environmental
Yes.
impact, and it has to be permittable. Absolutely. So,
And
okay.
then when looking at the map, when it has limited access between the cove and you enter into the larger part of the lake,
Uh-huh.
I don't understand how that works. Because
Well,
it looks very, very small and and
We're focusing on the park
okay.
issues, not the lake
Well,
issues.
I'm where the boundaries are. Will the boundaries allow the current owners who have boats in the cove to be able to have access to all of the lake.
we're not planning to put a block in anywhere in the water. We're just dealing with the waterfront right now. Oh, thank you. That's a good point. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, wait a minute. We're gonna have to use the
And-
microphone because it's a recorded meeting, so.
And
Can I
then
hold it for you? Okay.
I'm
are you
sorry,
just-
in the master plan, it appears that there's a whole house
Mhm.
that is taken, and at the last Lakewood City Council meeting, they were just going to take some parking spaces. So I'm curious about that.
Well, if you notice, the house isn't a part of the last preferred plan. We didn't know that there were some encroachment issues then.
Right.
So we're just learning now about a lot of encroachment issues. So we're working to try and solve those issues. So that's not part of this now. And
It's not part of the master plan
well,
to take the house.
this is the old master plan. We're getting
Right.
ready for the new. We don't have a new master plan yet. We're working on that.
Okay, so I'm concerned about how
Sure.
how the
Sure.
house will be treated.
I think everybody that's got an encroachment issue along this road is probably going to be concerned. So, yeah. so we're going to give someone else a chance to give some feedback
Okay.
too. So, but we're happy. Yeah, there's a handout in the back. There was a handout in the back. I only had 30 copies, but we can make a new one. And it's also on our website. This person's next because she's been waiting. You can. Yeah. Okay.
Was it not the Parks Department that took the stumps out?
We haven't taken any stumps out of the
Okay.
water.
I was there the day that a dump truck came
Uh-huh.
and took a dump truck full of stumps off that launch.
A city truck took dumpster?
I don't know who.
I don't think so. We did
don't
take a
think-
dangerous tree on the bottom of
No, I
the
watched
boat
a
launch. house.
dump truck be filled from the launch with the stumps that they were pulling out of the water. I assumed it was the park. There
Not
was
in the last
no-
23 years.
Okay, well, then your survey is probably in need of updating because there's a whole dump truck full that was removed.
Well, I can tell you there's a
It
whole
is
lot of stumps
considerably
still there. Just one sec.
different.
Just one sec. Just
It
one sec.
was
We're gonna have
not-
one person at a time. Okay.
It was not a city truck. It had no logos. It
Well,
was red.
I can't tell you what people do in the dark of night. Okay, this gal wants to share some stump info.
Yep.
Oh. Okay, look at that. We solved problems right here tonight. A rumor solution. Okay, wait, we're gonna have hands. She was next and then you.
So you mentioned that part of tackling the possible crime issues that come up would be like maintaining the bushes better. I'm wondering who's going to do that, because right now, this last summer, our church youth group
Mhm.
was asked to do that. So
Yeah.
we're depending on volunteers currently.
No, I think that I agree 100% that there's not been much maintenance out there because all there's really is blackberry bushes and they mow the grass and pick up leaves. The youth group, we use volunteer groups all the time in all of our parks. So we were thankful that the youth group came in and volunteered. But if there would be a better and regular maintenance program at the park, once it's developed. Well, we should do a better job now. I agree.
So a grant is paying for this, right?
No.
You're saying no? Or
No,
we're trying
not
to
for
get a grant?
maintenance. The city operations
that's
do
true.
maintenance, but for the development, we'd be applying for grants to do development, like changes. That's what the grants would be for. Okay, she's next. I'll give her my mic. Okay. You can be the back row, I'll be the front.
I realize that you're getting the opinion of the public. I'm hoping most of us here are property owners. I really don't think that there were invitations to the Lake Steilacoom Improvement Club, because from 2018, I know people would have been here. Now, what our concern is with this boat launch improvement will be more boats coming on the lake, which is going to be more of a hazard to our properties and our bulkheads, but also the fact that there'll be swimmers. The property owners pay for the weed control and maintenance and algae control of the lake, will there be any help in that area?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna write that down. So I hear you saying that we already addressed the more people in the park, more use of the launch, or more people on the lake. You're concerned about lake activity, how it affects your shoreline. I heard you guys talking about erosion, so let me write that down really quick. And then I'll just say that everybody that lives in Lakewood has the right to access and use this park, whether you own land, whether you rent land. If you pay rent, it's going to somebody that owns the property, but you're still contributing to it. So everybody in Lakewood, parks are for everybody. They're free and they're open to everybody. And they are the community, gathering space and equalizer. And so everybody has the right to use parks. I just want to clarify that. So, and that's a number one priority for the city council too. Clean Water Act, sure. And then that's part of the permittable. So I'll tell you that, but I'll write that down. We are doing projects I'll grab you next. We are doing projects. We've done them on Harry Todd on American Lake, and now we're doing one on American Lake. We've done them at Fort Steilacoom near Wahop Lake. There's tons of regulations anytime you're near water, and we have to follow every single rule. We have to do all kinds of studies. We have to make sure that what we do is permittable. And sometimes there's mitigation. The great thing is that we can probably get credit for removing all those blackberries and invasive species. That's actually a benefit to doing shoreline work. So yeah, sir, right there. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Got to get your hand up there.
Okay, first thing I'd like to say is, as far as the one-way goes, let's think about that, because we have garbage and trash that goes north. And I hate to sound like I'm the most important person here, but I'm the only one that has a driveway that goes out onto to Edgewater. So it's going to impact me from a traffic standpoint more than anybody. So my recommendation is to go north. That's one.
Okay. Go north. I'll just write that down.
Yeah. Number two, lighting. I worry about light pollution. Here's my question. If the park's closed after 9 o'clock or sunset, whichever comes first, why do we have lighting so we can walk the park at night? The park's closed.
Well, sometimes
I'm just
giving you some, sometimes when you put in a sidewalk or you put in a pathway, you're doing it for safety lighting, not necessarily open the park up, but
but you got to understand that if there's lighting, people come.
I agree. I understand.
If you build it, they will come.
If you build it, they will come.
Once again, with that mindset, if you build it, they will come. And I'm all about improving this park because it needs improvements, no doubt. But obviously parking's a problem now. Okay. If we improve parking, that's great. There's really not that much room to improve parking, but let's say we had 12 places, and that would be fantastic for the 12 cars that show up today. But what happens when we improve the park, improve access, because you've already said that was the number one priority, is to improve access, and 25 cars show up. Well, now we have parking for 12, and there's 13 cars that don't have a place to park. So I want to make sure that we're not creating a problem and trying to resolve a problem, because this is a small park. And what I feel like we're trying to do is, Taco Bell went out of business. What if Costco came in and said, hey, we want to build a Costco where that Taco Bell is? There's not room. There's the infrastructure is not there. We can't handle the traffic. That we can't build a parking lot. You can't do it. And so I feel like that's a situation we're going to run into with this park. Again, fantastic. Improve the park because it needs it. But we need to be careful about how we improve access, because the infrastructure is not there. So I just want to make sure city planning's involved in this.
Yeah.
To provide the infrastructure that can support the population that we want to improve this access for.
Sure. We just had a meeting with, I'll just say I had a meeting with the Lake City Neighborhood Association a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about parking. American Lake is a very small park for 60,000 people, and it's pretty much a neighborhood park most of the year, but there's 2.5 months where it's quite busy. And there's about 8 days. Now it's probably 10 days with climate change, but there's about 8 days out of the summer you couldn't build enough parking for those folks. So the idea is that we're not going to build probably as much parking as needed for every single person that wants to visit that park on the 8 sunniest days of the year, but we'll try and do something to make it safer for during all year long for the people that want to come down and enjoy the site. So, but I appreciate your comment because you know, we want to make sure that we're providing the infrastructure that's needed for the resources that are there. But it is a small site. This person's next, and then I'll grab you guys, I promise. Nope, she's behind you with her hand up. Sorry. Nope, sorry.
Hello, thank you. I'm Erica. My husband and I live on Interlochen. I just wanted to speak to the issue of safety and security. So we live directly across from the very small parking lot that is for the people who love fishing to come and park their cars and enjoy fishing. And the people who fish, wonderful people out there with their kids. So the majority of the people that are using that area look like they're just having a great time. A problem is trash. I've had to call a couple times and have the city come out and take out huge piles of trash that build up there and attract rats and all that. But what is more concerning to me is the crime that is going on in that parking lot. And it is almost on the daily. And I'm a bike rider. I ride past there in good weather as much as I can. There's drug paraphernalia on the ground, tons of alcohol trash everywhere. I love our Lakewood Police Department. I would never inundate them with calls and say, please come get these drug users out of the parking lot today. I would hate to do that to them every day. I don't think they have the resources to chase drug users out of there every day. When there have been gunshots there, like right there in that parking lot at the end of Interlochen Bridge. And the police were wonderful. They came right out with 2 cars and just took care of it and got all of that out of there. But my concern is that is a very tiny public area. There's no bushes there. There's no landscaping to do any kind of protection of anything. I'm not even sure what that means actually, but it's a terrible area and there's no enforcement going on really, unless one of us who lives right there calls our wonderful Lakewood police.
Well,
so I'm really worried about the size of and magnitude of this park that is being put out there and how that is going to be safe. How is that going to be safe for the residents who live all around? So
I appreciate that. So safety and security, and I'll let you know just as a resource, most of you know if you've gone to public meetings is that the police can't be everywhere. We do rely on citizens, especially our favorite citizens, to give us a call when they have a set of eyes on the park. We have different folks that let us know all the time. There's a blue tarp that just went up. There's some issues going on. If you call the Lakewood Police Department, 911 or the non-emergency number, if you're concerned, that helps them where they can put their emphasis. And so they don't know things are going on unless they, they can start tracking that. So, if you called them every day, then they would know there's a big problem there that we need to deal with more enforcement or more eyes on that site. So. No, you wouldn't. No, our police department is very much supportive of our neighbors who help us provide more information to help them do their job. And but they can't be everywhere all the time. So anyway, so thank you. We're gonna grab this woman. We're gonna go back and forth. Everybody's gonna get a chance, I promise. But we're just gonna try and share the love.
Hi, I'm just curious, just a segue to this gentleman's talking about traffic. So is there an anticipated capacity for this park that you're designing, and or are there regulations for how many people can be in a particular park size?
The question is capacity of a park site. It's a great question because I think like with COVID, they created sort of capacity numbers, how much square foot each person needed. And actually, if you divided that by or times that by the number of people, even like American Lake Park, it would have been like 4,000 people. I mean, you can't get 4,000 people in there. And we don't have a gate to monitor to get people in and out. We don't have park monitors to decide that. So capacity is a really hard thing. We know how much space we have, but it's really hard to monitor how many feet or people you can get in each space. It's not like a building. It's not like a parking lot. You don't have a chair. So it's a hard question. They don't have standards that say this number of acres fits this many people. I mean, they might for like a stadium or they might for like a concert venue, but they don't have it for general parks. And so it's a challenge. So, none of these ideas are creating, ball fields and playgrounds. It's really, these are all very passive, except for the boat launch kind of activity, very passive kinds of activities. And so we're not looking at really changing the use. We're just looking at making it cleaner and better. Yeah. What he's saying is we are changing the use. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah, Santa cans are a challenge. We do usually give somebody a shot at Santa cans. Hear that? Yeah, I hear that. And I do know that when you do improve things, people do come, but there are people coming there now, and they deserve a decent place to come and play, a safe place to walk. And the city has a responsibility to create an open space for the whole community. We aren't, it's a state legislative issue. That's not my problem. You should talk to. I don't think that that's true. They can do parking tickets.
They tow them.
Yeah, he had a question regarding.
They will not ticket the cars that are parked illegally in front of the no parking sign. They will only tow them. I've never once seen them. Has anyone who lives in front of that park seen an officer write a ticket? Twice. And how long have you lived there? 21 years.
I can't speak to every officer.
Well, I
that's
know
working out.
you can't,
No,
and I
but,
understand
no,
that.
we're
But
able
what
to
I'm
write.
saying is, I mean, this is our government supposed to be helping. And if you guys aren't ticketing, you're just towing a car and then they leave for 10 minutes and come back. This isn't going to help. None of this is going to help.
So what I hear him say is, yes, they can write tickets. And what I'm hearing you say, there needs to be more enforcement. So we've got those listed as issues, and we'll again address those as we're working on the development. So this woman over here, Jason's going to come talk to him.
Thank you and good evening, neighbors. I'm just co-signing on the monitoring and enforcement. I live on Edgewater, and just, are you gonna, if you're doing this improvement, I'm just lifting my voice, we're gonna have to have more cooperation from our police. And are we planning for that? Because what I don't like is to feel like I'm being a bother. And when I call, and on top of that, we have to deal with the unruly, disrespectful attitudes that people give us when we ask them to please not park somewhere when the signs say don't park here. And so when we call the police, and I'm just as respectful as possible, it takes forever for them to get there, and then they don't ticket. And so the people just put the FU sign up to us. And so when we're doing this, can we, I mean, like, how do we get another officer or, like resources to make sure that we're going to have someone care about this situation, because it's pretty effed up right now. And I'm just saying that.
So I hear her say we need more enforcement. We heard you. We've written it down. We've got a new police chief. We'll work on that. Also, we talked about where people are parking, where it says no parking. There's a lot of illegal no parking signs. Some people have put their own personal no parking signs up across, which aren't city parking signs. So again, but I heard what you're saying, and it's an issue, and we're going to try and address it. I hear what you're saying. We're going to try and address it. I can't promise you that every single person down there's going to be nice and respectful. It does not happen. I'm surprised at the way people treat other people and our staff in parks and the police department in parks. It's pretty sad, but we're going to do our best. But I did hear what you said. We've got that. We do have a new police chief. I'm going to try this person back here, this gentleman here. I haven't heard from him yet.
Just to reiterate, I live on the Cove and I've launched there for many, many years. If we could encourage swimming on the north side of the boat launch, that would be great, because on the south side, it does get really close. It's very narrow there and the lane is towards the park. Actually, it's very shallow on the other side. And I've never launched coming north on Edgewater. I understand it'd be better. So I don't know. I'll have to try that, see if I can make that turn up Foster. I've never launched that way. That's all I have.
And again, yeah, the one ways just was a recommendation. That doesn't mean it's going to be one way. I'm just saying, but he's saying he prefers north, or he's going to try, no, prefers south, and he might try north. So, okay, let's just, we're going to scoot our way through. Yes. I'm sorry.
Good evening. I have just a couple of things as far as enforcement and safety. There are boating rules. Boating goes in the direction of counterclockwise. We have people on that lake going every which way, especially jet ski people. Swimming on that lake, at least for residents, is 20 feet out from your shoreline. We have people jumping off boats, swimming in the middle of the lake. You can't see them.
Yeah.
When you're coming up on a jet ski or a boat, you don't see that. Who's going to enforce who has their boater's license? And another one, as far as volunteers managing the landscape, we see how that went on the island.
I don't know what that means, but I'll write it down. Someone will give me the inside joke. Okay, we're gonna go here with Jody.
Hi, we live right off of Foster, and the one thing I want to mention is there's too much density, as your traffic study showed, in that area that was all red on your traffic study. And so being able to move some of those parking areas, disperse them through the entire distance of the park could help with that, because really it gets to be a mess when people are trying to get their boats in and people are coming both ways. There's just too much density there.
Okay.
And when I look at the plan, most of the burden for parking on Foster is on our property.
I see
And
that.
so that is a concern for us that we need to talk about, because that, it looks like you're kind of jamming all of that into that one access area up and down on Foster. And a lot of concerns about tree removal. There's a pair of mature bald eagles and a young yearling that frequent that cove. There are owls there. There are sharp-shinned hawks. There are coyotes. We've got a lot of wildlife in that area. And when I see the term tree removal, it's really scary to us, because what are you considering to be a native species? What are you going to be following your codes about significant trees and heritage trees? Because those are all huge Douglas firs in that park. And it would just be heartbreaking to see all those trees being taken down because they're not considered
Yeah, I don't think
native.
anybody has any intention of taking trees
Okay,
down.
because the eagles.
No, what we
yeah.
told you is that we did a survey and we did take out, I think, 3 dangerous trees. This was in
Yeah.
2018, but,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
one that was on the end where,
Yeah.
they were doing the rope swing constantly. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, the
Yeah.
intent isn't to do tree removal.
Okay.
I mean, unless there's a reason for it, but
Right.
that's not,
Well, the
that's not our
one-
plan. We
yeah.
have to follow all the new significant tree rules too. So
Yeah.
again, that's not a plan. Tree
Okay.
removal was something that we did. I was explaining the history of the site. That was something that we did between 1920 and 2020 and today. There was some dangerous trees that were removed. And
Mhm.
again, so
And this time of year, the winter ducks come in and they primarily use that cove to be in that area. So there's just a whole lot of wildlife in there.
wildlife, yeah.
That really can be negatively impacted if it gets too crazy with what we're doing there. And those eagles all sit up in those Douglas firs in the park. So so that was that. The park.
I know, I appreciate that.
I think that's it. Did you have any? That's, the 2 other access.
I'm gonna.
Oh,
I
the
d-
2
if
other
you-
access points too. I mean, it's, again, all of the focus is in this one launch area. Is there a way that, again, we can reduce the density of traffic and people by having other alternatives around the
Spreading the
lake?
love in different areas. I hear
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
Thank
So I'm gonna have Nikki, if you don't want your picture taken, just look away, but it's good to show that we had a meeting. And so I'm just taking a couple of pictures. So if you
Yes,
didn't want to be like on the news, no, it won't be on the news. Okay. Okay. Oh, let's grab this. Yes.
Babs mentioned that we paid taxes, additional tax.
Yes. Correct. There's a lake management district and they deal with the milfoil or things like that, just like we have on American Lake too. We pay too. Yeah. Everybody, it's a linear foot. Yeah. It is. She's worried about that the people launching the boats aren't paying taxes to support the words. Oh, no, 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 no.
I am saying, I'm asking or saying that I'm concerned with an increase in the number of boats if our additional tax is going to be affected by the milfoil and all the other things that are coming in. We're not as big.
I don't know. You would need to talk to your Lake District people because we don't have anything to do with that. That's a separate organization. This,
By adding more boats, you're adding all of the things that they, as we, as lake residents, are paying in our tax.
okay,
To maintain.
got it. Okay, good to know.
I'm here representing the
Yeah.
Chambers Clover Creek Watershed Council, which serves a good part, well, where everybody lives, actually. Ricky McGee on the Chambers Clover Creek Watershed Council. We're a volunteer organization. We are not paid. We're here as an advisory capacity. Our questions relate primarily to landscape and habitat, which include water quality and quantity, and how the plan will align with the 2019 Shoreline Management Plan, which points out, as you have said tonight, this is the only natural shoreline of the lake. Most of the rest of it has been armored. It is not publicly accessible, and we don't have data about the quality of the water, except that has been conducted over time by volunteers. But we know that the whole lake was artificially constructed. We want to make sure, and we're interested in the data that has been collected, very interested about the 2023 little report that was done, as well as what, and not mentioned here so much, the restoration, the shoreline management, and what will happen to this one area that is truly the natural habitat of the lake. We can't really say that about any other shoreline in the lake.
Sure. So the shoreline, any landscaping, it would be natural, it would be native, it would be conducive to the Shoreline Management Act. So all of the people that are working on this are well versed in that. We have to follow all of all of the rules of the Shoreline Management Act. And again, removing those invasive materials is a good thing. You got to replace them with something. So anyway, but I hear you. I hear you. So we really need to, we've heard a lot of the same things over and over, but this gentleman's been very patient. So I'm going to give him the phone. And then we have a little activity that we want to have people do. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Can you hear me? Good
I can
evening.
hear you.
A couple things I just want to comment on. I think one of your things up there, it says conflicts lake use, and it says swimming and fishing. I think you should add swimmers to that, or boats as well.
Yeah.
Because the boats that come into that cove, the water's about 3 feet deep right there, and swimmers are out there all the time. And when boats come in, it's just a recipe for a disaster.
Yeah, that was on the other list, but that's a
Right.
summary, but I agree with you. Yes.
So I
It's a
appreciate
safety
that.
issue.
And I think one thing, if we build a new parking lot for people to come park and that type of thing and launch their boats, I think it has to have a gate. It should definitely have a gate. I think we've seen what's happened over at American Lake in the parking lots with drug use. They've had a couple of shootings there. And I know the Lakewood Police Department do a great job, but they can't be everywhere at one time. And I think people will utilize that parking lot, especially if it's lit or not lit, to do drugs and to hang out in their cars at night. And it will be a nuisance, not only for the people that live around that area, but also for people across the lake and in the area. It will become a nuisance for the police department as well. So if you had someone that would go out and lock it like they do some of the parks at closing time, that's also a deterrent to other people because they know they're going to get shoot on their way. And if they refuse to leave, at that point, they would have direct communication with the police and they could call the police.
The
and
police
make
actually are the ones that close the gates.
Oh.
So they actually
One more
lock the
gate to
gates
close.
and shoo them out. No,
But,
I'm
yeah.
saying at our parks that have gates, and if there's a parking lot, we always put a gate on it. The
Right.
police department are the ones that do shoo them out and lock the gates.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that would be
It's a
very
good set of eyes on the parks. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank
So
you.
that's great. Okay, we got two more. This gentleman right behind him asked if he could, and then this gentleman in the back.
Just to follow up on what he said, I don't know how you're gonna put a gate on parallel parking next to the
Yeah.
street. But I echo what most everybody here has said, lots of negative comments. I'm curious, when you had your meetings in 2019, how many people attended that meeting?
Yeah.
I'm just, about how
I
many?
think we had about 30 people the first night on site. And then we had a second meeting at City Hall that was probably quite a few. Yeah, we had one on the lake. So there was a good number of folks.
All
There
right.
were folks that lived on the lake and folks that were several blocks up that talked about wanting to have access
I'm
and
not sure how-
walking their dog.
Not sure how that was advertised, but I live, real close and I never heard about it. My comment was, I saw stumps in the lake as being a problem, but I heard you say, oh, there's some rebar, maybe they put some floats on the stumps. I'm curious, do you know how many stumps are accessible to a boat's out drive on Lake Steilacoom?
I don't know anything about the stumps
okay.
except for what I can see right now.
I can tell you, I'm an avid paddle boarder, so I've been on the perimeter of the lake every inch of it. I would say right now there's probably 80 stumps that you could hit. I'm worried about the newbies that come onto the lake that don't know about stumps. I echo everything else that was said here, but I'm worried somebody will kill themselves or get seriously injured hitting those stumps.
Sure.
We as residents of on Lake Steilacoom, we always go through a training process with anybody that gets behind the wheel of our boat. I personally have a map telling the people that are going to use the boat, stay away from here, don't go there, because if you don't know, you can find out. I'm worried that somebody new to Lake Steilacoom might seriously injure themselves or kill themselves by hitting these stumps. There are a tremendous amount of them. If you paddleboard or went in a boat on a clear water day, you would be astounded how many there are.
Yeah, so I'd love to see a copy of that map. Again, we're focusing primarily on the park and we don't manage the lake, but I appreciate that because it's a safety issue. And that might be something that could be advertised or posted, or a QR code that you could get at the launch that says, Stumpville, it's challenge. Okay, so we got one more person in the back and then we're gonna move to, and just so you know, I'll wait till you're done, but we have these cards that talk about if the topic, because I've heard a lot of the same things over and over again, and I'm hearing you, I promise. But you can write your comments here if you didn't get a chance to finish whatever it is that you wanted to say that you didn't have a chance to say. You can write this down here. You can call us. You can email me. Yeah. Putting on a boat launch. We have paid. Oh, paid parking. I've heard a paid boat launch, but we haven't done, we haven't done paid parking, but we can write it down. Okay. It's illegal to do that, but so just so you know. Oh, you can, okay, well, I don't know. You'd have to run your own business. That's not, you can't do it on city property. Okay. Okay. Yeah. If you want to run a concession on your property, again, that's not, I don't understand that. Oh. I said no. Nobody's brought that up, but I'm listing it on the list now. Well, we're not negotiating to, I'm saying I heard your idea. I put it on the list. Yeah. You're the first one that brought it up. So we're putting it on the list. So this person's chatting real quick. And then if you've got something new to share, I'm going to do that, or we're going to move on because we're supposed to be done by 7. I want to value your time.
Okay, my name's James Dunlop. I live quite close to the lake. I walk around it most days. So I understand the equity issue that you've got to give access to the lake to the residents of Lakewood. I absolutely understand that. But it does seem you have an issue where there simply is not there's not enough lakefront to cater for the demand. Plus you've got traffic issues, and I've seen boats literally getting dropped, and big boats being literally dropped in the middle of a road. The smell of gas. I've heard people complain about exits being blocked and emergency services can't get through, and you've got this huge, all these traffic issues, and a lot of it seems to come down to the issue of boat launches, and I'm thinking particularly of larger boats. Might it be a good idea, at least as a temporary measure, to just see what happens, to have a restriction on the type of boats that one can launch? I mean, for example, not being able to.
Well, we'll put that down. That's a good.
Well, I mean, if you, for example, you restricted sort of, you only had boats that could be manually carried there, like sort of kayaks or whatever, because people want that lakefront for all sorts of reasons, like swimming, just enjoying the sun, the view, whatever. But I think doing it as a temporary measure to just see what impact it has on traffic might and generally the use of the lake might actually be a good idea, even though it's going to be unpopular with a minority of people in Lakewood.
So what I hear him say too is possibly do some pilot projects to look at some temporary changes and see what maybe the impact, positive or negative, might be. Good suggestion. Okay.
And they do come out, and I've seen them on the lake, so they do a good job. And as this improves, I hope that they would come out, even more, especially to send a message. So.
Okay. This gentleman hasn't said anything yet.
Yeah, one of the reasons I moved to Lake Steilacoom was I used that boat launch, and I thought, once somebody uses that boat launch, they'll never be back. So our lake will not be crowded.
That's the key. That's how you reduce it. No. Yeah.
And but I really like what the gentleman behind me said is people don't know what they're getting into when they use that boat launch and then they bottom out on a stump, because we see it all the time. And so that's not a bad idea of limiting the size of the boat. Boats allowed on it.
Okay, one more, and then we're gonna jump into this next thing real quick and give you 10 minutes to do something. You're gonna write everything down that you wanted to share with me.
I'm going to offer a solution, and I've lived on the lake since 1956, and I've seen it all and I've done it all. When we patrolled the lake before we had a city, we had a volunteer sheriff, and you give 1 or 2 citations out on the lake and the word gets out. So if you have enforcement
volunteer
on a regular basis,
okay,
it does decrease the crime, the garbage, everything else.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. I know. We talked with them. Okay, great. Okay, 2. Same number of tickets the other person did. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We've heard a lot of your feedback. If you have something that you really are dying to share that you didn't already share or already hear, because if you know, we hear about enforcement. We've heard about trash. We've heard about all those things. They're on the list. And so they'll be considered as part of the design. So there are these notes here that you can fill out, take one with you. We also have this exercise we would like for those of you that are interested. If you got a set of dots, it doesn't matter what color they are. What we'd really like is this, you have 6 choices. You can put all your choices on move the boat launch. You could put 1 dot on your favorite things, but we'd like to get feedback from you on what are the priority things that you're interested in having happen. We have a dock for the boat launch. You might have lighting for safety or not. You wouldn't put your dot on there. You'd probably put it on something else. Small shelter, a viewpoint, habitat restorations on here. You have 6 dots. You can put, they're up here and you can pass them out. So I want you to put 6 dots on either 6 different things, or if you feel really strongly about one thing, put your dots on it. And if your thing is not on here, then you can write it up here. That's for this activity. Over here, if your activity isn't there, we heard at the last meeting, actually, I think it was a council meeting. I was chatting in the back row with some folks, and a couple people came up with ideas. Now, they're not necessarily great ideas. They're not be wonderful ideas. They could be horrible ideas, but they were ideas because brainstorming is about coming up with some solutions, especially when you talk about parking. There are ideas like, why don't you cut Foster off halfway so that people can launch back and forth without having it cause traffic? Someone said, why don't you cut off a portion of this area and have it be a walkable thing? So if you've got ideas about this particular area, maybe because you live by it, you go to this area all the time, or you just want to see it thrown out there, maybe you want a bike lane, maybe you want a pathway, just take your marker and write it on here. And Jason's going to come up here and stand, and maybe Alan will come over here and help facilitate it. But we really want to hear about not just all of the things that are really problematic, but if we were going to make change, what are some things you'd like to see there? So we'd really like to get feedback from you on that position. Yeah. Yeah. So if you signed in and put your email, we will email you. We put signs out at the park for those of you that live and work there. We put it on social media. We put it in the connections. We put it in the city manager's thing. We tried to send the information out as much as you can. We're not going to send 60,000 letters out because not a lot of people that live, out in different parts of the city are as concerned about this park, maybe as the people that live right there. But if you write your email there, we will post it. We will send you a note for the next letter. But so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about what you're excited about, because I can see a lot of you are really excited about things. We're going to talk about maybe what your priorities are, what you like or what you don't. Feel free to write that down if you don't think that we captured it. And then if you have any new ideas that we haven't considered. And then just so that those of you we are currently working with consultants. We're going to review all of the information, not just what we did before, but all of this information and all the current stuff that we know. We didn't do a traffic study back in 2019. We didn't have a good survey back in 2020. So we're gathering all this new information. They're going to come up with some alternatives, and we're going to invite you all back. You can write it down right now. Take a picture of it, check on the website. This is the park board. So in case you forgot what night it was, it's say, oh, we went to a park board meeting. It's the January park board meeting. We're going to come back with all these alternatives. And we're going to say, what do you love about this? What do you not love about this? So we'll be able to give you some more information. Does that make sense? A speaker to talk about what? I'd be happy to sit down and chat with them and find out what they wanted to share about it and how we could include it with the alternatives. Because the idea is that we're learning information all the time. We're gathering information. If there's someone that would like to come and share some specific details with us, we'd absolutely want to talk with them. If we want to get some information from the Chambers Creek environmental folks, we'd love to hear information from them. I don't think we need a speaker to talk to the group about milfoil when we really are talking about a park development plan. And I got to tell you, the reason we're doing it now is because we want to apply for grants. If we missed a grant deadline, it's going to be another 2 years before we can do that. And so we really want to, and it takes a long time to get projects up and going. So So anyway, we'd love to get your feedback. Please come up and share this information. That's our next meeting. And we're really grateful that you're here, but come and do this activity so that we can get some feedback. If you don't want to participate and then you don't like what we come up with, it's kind of hard to complain about something if you didn't provide some input. So we really, really, really want your input. Yeah.
It says you're trying to limit public access to both sides for the sake of the privacy.
Yeah, buffer.
Is there an intent on how you plan on limiting that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just one second. It's the 23rd. It's Tuesday, whatever the Tuesday is in January. Fourth Tuesday. I wasn't trying to trick you. I promise. We'll post it. We'll put signs back out at the park again.
I just didn't know if you guys had a